Twohy to the stage. So, David, I understand we have some cast backstage. Would you like to introduce everybody to Doll?
My character Doll. Oh, hey, that's me. I think we have a film clip, yeah?
Yes, we're gonna show that as we bring her out. So.
All right. Well, first let me say, just it's been 13. Last time I was at Comic-Con was 13 years ago. I came down with a little movie called Pitch Black. I came down with an actor that nobody knew called Vin Diesel. Nobody knew what the movie that was, nobody knew who we were, but you know what? It turned out all right. And here we are, back 13 years later with a new Riddick. I could never have dreamed it was possible, and I'll tell you what, I'm more excited than you are about it all, okay? But let's hold off on Vin for a second. Let's talk about Katee Sackhoff. She plays the character Doll in this new Riddick movie. She is a mercenary who comes to this planet to hunt Riddick, and she comes to realize that while he may be the most dangerous thing on the planet, he is not necessarily the worst thing on the planet. So let's have a look at Katee's stuff.
Absolutely.
I did the best I could. I cut off 6 inches of my dress last night, so I hope you're happy.
Did anybody see your tweet this morning?
No.
Ooh, check it out. Check out our tweet this morning with a picture.
So David, who's this Riddick character again?
Riddick is,
I'll be here.
Riddick needs no introduction. Let's see the damn clip.
See you, sir. So, one of the things that I love about this one is that you guys really did make a sequel to both Pitch Black and to the second film. And you paid very direct tribute to both of the movies. Can you talk about the creative challenge of figuring out what story you wanted to tell for the third Riddick film, and how you guys landed on this one?
Well, once we realized we were not going to be a studio picture and that we were going to be an independent picture, it was both kind of daunting and liberating for us. And the process became very streamlined. It was creative meetings were in Vin's kitchen. I would sit on the counter. Vin would roam around trying not to smoke his American spirits. And I just threw out ideas, and he would spend the whole night till 2, 3 in the morning just trying to top those ideas. And then we finally settled in on a survival story. We knew we wouldn't have all the money in the world to spend on this one, but a survival story was the way to go. So very streamlined. I wrote a spec script. We took it down to Berlin. We sold it in overseas markets, brought it back home, and got Universal to come aboard again as the American distributor. But a very streamlined, liberating process. And I think we did a pretty good job of paying off past debts and moving it into new territory too.
Absolutely. One of the things that I love about the Fast and the Furious series, Ben, is that Dom, of course, Dom is so driven by family and by what that means to him. What is it that drives Riddick?
That's a very good question. I guess there's some very few similarities between the two different characters. I think at the core for the Riddick character, he's driven by some quest for identity. We're introduced to this character in Pitch Black, and he's kind of mocking where he comes from for the amusement, for his own amusement. And we, throughout the mythology, learn more and more about who he is and where he's from.
I love the shirt today. Furion, yeah.
Yeah, Furious shirt, guys, Furious.
Katee, you've experienced sort of the perfect hurricane of science fiction fandom when you were on Battlestar Galactica. I've got to think those are some of the most rabid and devoted fans somebody could ask to have. Does it make it more important when you are asked to do something within the genre, within science fiction, for you to really know that it's a character and a story that is worth telling? Are you, when you read material like this, what is the barometer it has to pass for you to sign on to do it?
First of all, science fiction fans are the most loyal fans in the world. I mean, they are, it's true. They'll watch things that you actually should give them their money back for and love it, just create drinking games out of it and stuff. But really, I think the most important thing for me is would I want to see this project, would I want to see this movie? And I've been a fan of Vin and Pitch Black and Chronicles of Riddick first, like, you know, I jumped on the bandwagon from the very beginning. So when this came up, it was, you know, I was like, what do I need to do to be in this? I'll do anything, pretty much. So, it was amazing. You know, I loved Doll. I loved how strong she was. I love that she didn't really apologize for anything. She didn't really. I don't see a weakness in her, and that's something I haven't played before. I haven't, you know, I usually play a vulnerability with a character, and with Doll there was no vulnerability other than that she was a woman. So I loved it. I loved the script, I loved the idea of it, and I got to shoot really big guns, which is always fun for me. I think my gun was the biggest one.
Ben, one of my favorite things about you has been how vocal you are about some of your passions, including role-playing, which there are very few people that will cop to that, and I love that you do, and unapologetically. Does role-playing, your life as a role-player, has that influenced the way you approach a character, especially one that you're as heavily invested in as Riddick?
Yeah, very much so. Dungeons and Dragons for me was a training ground for imagination in so many ways. And I have friends in Hollywood that tease me and say that I'm attempting to DM Hollywood. Yeah, I think that the Dungeons and Dragons, when we played Dungeons and Dragons, I had already started acting, but it was this wonderful game before there was obviously, you know, Blizzard, or before there was anything online. We would all act out these characters that we were playing, and it didn't take more than a couple hours before you really believed you were this witch hunter, and the dice that you were rolling was really your weapon. But I think the Dungeons and Dragons, the fantasy role-playing world that I was so immersed in, ended up playing itself out in the way that I approached the mythology. You asked a very good question in the beginning, which was, what kind of considerations did we take? How did we succeed in honoring both the mythology of the Chronicles of Riddick and the core character drive of Pitch Black? And I would assume that that DM approach to those kind of problems that helped us, because it was something we were very, very conscious of. We really enjoyed, both David and I really enjoyed the idea that we were expanding this mythology when we did Chronicles of Riddick. And yet, at the same time, in order to do a film of that size and that budget, we had to go PG-13. And we had a long period of time while we couldn't get this movie made. And we were struggling, and we were telling the studio that this was something that a core audience did connect to, and something that we as artists connected to. And so when the audience asked for this movie to be rated R, it actually helped us get the movie made because we didn't have to spend $200 million to make the movie. Why am I telling you that? Because one of the things that we're really proud of here is how the film maintains the style of Pitch Black and the tempo of Pitch Black while still servicing the mythology. So if you're following the mythology, you can only imagine where you will be at the end of this movie.
Yeah.
And if you've been following the mythology, you know that eventually you will end up in the Underverse.
So David, now that we've talked about it, can we see something from the film?
Yeah, that's why we're here, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, just no setup, let's just get to the good stuff, huh? By the way, that was the best we could do with what little we had.
Oh.
By the way, can I just say something? David, you kicked ass in that movie. You kicked ass.
Work the way.
Yeah.
Yes.
Then this question is for you. Fight scenes, I think, is what you do best. Does it come natural to you, or is it kind of difficult?
Does it come natural? What was the last part, beautiful?
Happy belated birthday!
Thank you so much. Thank you so much. The fight sequences, do they come easy? Nothing comes easy when I'm in character because everything I do in character I take seriously. And I have to say something about this character. You know, I just was traveling around the world talking about Dom Toretto. And Dom Toretto is a character that he has a certain level of anger in him, but ultimately he has love and a regard for family. What's inside of Riddick is so scary that now that I have kids, when I watch the Riddick character, there's a part of me, Drew, that feels guilty for having such a darkness in that character. And I look at what he's doing and I go, that wasn't cool, you shouldn't have killed that guy. And I'm telling you, it's only because I have kids now. But the physical aspect of these characters does come, it is a little bit more natural for me. But the emotion that you put behind the fighting is really what is the weighty part of that process. If you're fighting somebody, that classic fight that I had in Fast 5 between Dwayne Johnson and myself, that was a fight that we shot over 5 days, but what was so taxing was all of the emotional component to that fight sequence. So fight sequences to me isn't just about the athleticism, it so often is about what the emotion is behind it and how willing you are to really, really, really challenge that emotion or really take that emotion to that place. So you're feeling a certain intensity for the whole time that you're shooting the actual physical scene. So I hope that answers your question. But the physical is always backed by
Yes, sir.
Hi, first I just want to say thank you so much for creating the character Riddick. I literally grew up with him. Yeah, I watched it when I was a little kid, and basically I conquered my fear of darkness because of Riddick. Right? Yeah. it even got to the point where I would wait for my parents to come home from work, and I would have my plastic little knife and turn off the lights and kind of ambush them with it all. Yeah. But yeah.
We don't promote that. We don't promote that.
I had a question for Vin actually. Because you play so many badass characters, and for someone like me who doesn't sound as badass as you or like look as badass as you, I'm just a little Asian kid. But how could I be more badass? Like, have me tip for being badass.
I am seeing a level of badass growing in you as you speak. Quite frankly, I think every syllable takes you to a higher level of badassery. Continue on your journey to be a badass.
All right, our next one.
Thank you. This question is for Katee. Love everything that you do. Our dog's name is Kara. Was happy yesterday. It's very surreal to ask Mr. Olmos and Mr. Hatch a question, so I had to ask you a question. How do you bring your unique energy into the personification of light and darkness that kind of permeates the Riddick legend, and bring your unique energy to this role? What are we in store for this character?
Wow. Awesome question. I think that there's an element to Doll that inside of her, we talked a lot about Doll before we even started, and about backstory that you won't necessarily get to see in dialogue, but that she kind of carries with her. And there's a lot about Doll that is trying to prove something to not necessarily herself, but to the people in her life. And so I think that there is a lightness that she brings to it, where she's funny and she's ironic, and but there is a hurt inside of her that is incredibly dark, and I think that she's constantly punishing herself and putting herself in circumstances and that she feels she deserves. And I think that there's a side to her that understands the darkness in Riddick, and I don't necessarily think it's compassion that she feels for him, but it's a kinship where she feels that there's a piece of her that finally makes sense because she's seen it in somebody else. So there is lightness and darkness to her, but yeah, I hope that answers your question.
We've got time for just one more, and I wanted to ask this to both David and Ben. You guys now, I think, have fully explored this character between each other, even if we haven't seen it all on film yet. So can you tell us one thing about Riddick that we don't know yet from these films?
Well, that's tricky, because that's the next movie. But you mean without giving away the future? First of all, can I say something about Drew? And I don't know if you remember this, but when Pitch Black came out, what year did Pitch Black come out?
2000.
When Pitch Black came out in 2000, in Austin, Texas,
Yes, sir.
there was something called the Butt-Numathon.
The very first one.
The very first Butt-Numathon.
The butt what?
The Butt-Numathon. It is a 24-hour movie marathon
Got
where you're
it.
locked in the theater and for 24 straight hours.
Perfect, now we all know.
Yes.
The butt numathon, got it.
I went to the Butt-Numathon with a movie that nobody had ever heard of. It was a film done in Australia called Pitch Black. And I remember screening that movie at 2 a.m.
Oh, it's great.
And it was the
Perfect time.
first time ever I had watched an audience see Riddick. And so I just wanted to say, Drew, he's been a fan of this franchise for over a decade, and it's an honor that you are asking us these questions about Riddick.
Thanks, man. Thank you very much. I'm glad I got to see the third one. That's the thing. I want more of these. I felt greedy for it at the end of the second one. I'm even more so now. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just want to say thank you for coming to the Universal panel today. Kick-Ass 2 in theaters August 16th. Let's do one more. Okay, we've got time for one quick one. Yes.
Thank you. I'm really looking forward to this movie, but this one's for you, Vin. It seems like every movie you get in, you become the face of that franchise. And so I'm wondering, I guess the word I could say is vision. What is your vision for, I guess, the upcoming Marvel movies?
Remember, Marvel has snipers throughout the entire auditorium.
Now, why did I have to go ahead and say, ask the question? One last one. And he asked the one question I'm not supposed to say anything on. What do you think? What do you want it to be?
Always put that stuff back on the audience when you get that question.
Yeah, tell me about it. Well, I will say there is some very big news coming at the end of this month. Poor Marvel. Poor Marvel.
Ladies and gentlemen, one more time for David Twohy, Vin Diesel, Katee, Sackhoff, Riddick.
Thank you so much. We make the movie for you. We make the movie for you.